All right, we are going live down here. We are down here at the AICPA headquarters in Raleigh, Durham, in the Innovation Hub. It's Friday, August 16th, 12:45 EDT, and we got two Toms on here, so things are going to be going wild. So, for those of you who don't know me, I am the other Tom Hood. I'm a partner at SC&H and a leader in our transformation and advisory practice. And then we have this Tom Hood, who doesn't really need an introduction, but for formalities, he is the EVP of Business Growth and Engagement. So we just had 2 days down here with the Future of Finance Leadership Advisory Group, or the FLAG group, going through everything around AI, Gen AI, all the way through the organizational structure of what finance teams need to look like to be able to remain competitive and take advantage of these solutions and what they'll look like after it's adopted. So before we go into that content, I guess, Dad, you want to go into a little bit of background on what the Future of Finance Advisory Group is, and also just a little bit of details around the summit coming up as well.
Yes. So Thomas, thank you for having me on your show. Honored to be here. It is exciting. We just spent 2 days with this Future Finance Group. One of my favorite quotes of all time is from Isaac Newton, who says, "If I can see farther than others, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants." The giants I speak about are our Future of Finance Leadership Advisory Group. It's a group of about 50 senior finance leaders, CFOs, CAOs, et cetera, in major corporations, many of them Fortune 500 or really big middle market. And we had that group down here. We had about 20 hybrid, virtual and in person, and 2 days talking about all the top issues, which by the way, we poll the group every 6 months or so and say, what are the top issues? And that drives our agenda. And then they kind of basically lead the group into these basic kind of key thought around what they're dealing with. So same group, we said, what are the top 5 issues? Number 1, accelerated digital transformation, but like absolutely number 1. Number 2, right behind it, our summit, but it's gotten a little bit even more important. Number 3 is finding and retaining talent, which actually flipped spaces with number 4, which was the need for new skills. So that was number 3. Now it's back to number 4 again. Talent moved up by 1. And then number 5 is leading and managing in a hybrid work environment.
Yeah.
So then obviously our agenda for this meeting, which was already set before we did that updated poll, was Gen AI and AI, and then talent. So that's the 2 big topics we spent about 4 hours each with the group.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing that started some of the conversation that led into the main focus of the day around AI started with the question of, well, do we view AI as just part of transformation, or do we view them as 2 distinct trends that are working side by side? And ultimately the group, I think unanimously decided that they are 2 separate things, where transformation is a broader piece to get to an end goal, and AI is a separate piece to help achieve goals throughout the organization. I think that also then led into what are the key steps to be able to start using AI in your organization and adopt it. And that really had us asking the question of, well, what are we ultimately transforming to, right? We talk about transforming, we talk about using AI, and we talk about how that's going to help our current skills today, but without having that context of what we think finance should and could be doing without this stuff, there's a little bit of gap in terms of, are we making the right decisions today to put ourselves in a position for success in the future? So I think,
well, you brought it up at dinner after we had our first couple hours on Gen AI and said, well, where are we? What's the destination? What are we really trying to do? And it reflected back when we got this group together. 2021 in Nashville was our first meeting of our Future Finance Group. And we created a vision for the future. We actually said, what do we want the future to look like? And at that point, we did 2025 and 2030. And I'm going to read you the vision because Thomas says, well, let's reset and say, how are we doing against that vision? And is it still relevant? So here's what our group came up with in 2021 about the future looking ahead to 2030. The CFO will have transformed into a strategic leader, deeply integrated with all business functions, driving value creation and innovation through advanced analytics and real-time financial insights. Automation will have completely revolutionized transactional activities, allowing finance to focus on decision support and consultative roles. The CFO will be a champion of technology and cybersecurity, guiding the organization through complex global challenges with a diverse and agile team. As the profession evolves, the CFO will increasingly be seen as a future CEO, embodying a broad skill set that combines financial acumen with strategic foresight and leadership. And in fact, the group felt that was still a very relevant vision. They had some tweaks to it, and we're going to be revisiting this in December at our summit coming back up December 11th through the 13th in San Diego.
San Diego, not a bad place to be in December.
Exactly.
So it was interesting seeing that vision because I think, like you said, most of that stuff still does apply. I do think right now, back in 2021, AI was just it was on there, but it wasn't really a focus on what's possible or how it could be used to really change the organization. So I think the conversation today in particular was pretty interesting because we talked about not only where can AI be deployed, but then what is the future makeup of the organization going to look like to be able to achieve those pretty aspirational goals that are on that 2030 statement. And I think looking back at the AI piece on getting started, I think there's a few key things. I'm curious to see what you think too, but really I think it starts with having a vision for your team and what you think finance should be delivering on within the organization, or could be delivering on in the future if you're not already. I think the second thing that was clear is that data drives all of this, right? So while AI is in all the conversations, there certainly needs to be a concerted effort as part of your transformation initiatives to get the data and the information correct across your ERP, across your EPM solutions, so whether it's Oracle EPM or OneStream or Adaptive, and then into your data warehousing solutions. That is really the combination of not only your management level type reporting information, but overlaid with that can be used for decision support, right? So that's kind of the first two steps to get there. And then in addition to that, in order to get starting, while you may not be able to deploy a full AI application within finance yet, right? A lot of times AI is going to be pushed to you in the form of whatever cloud ERP you're on or EPM solution. But the areas where finance can get started is going through and finding detailed use cases for using something like ChatGPT. And we heard some pretty cool examples of where people were using that.
We're going to be publishing a leader guide for finance, thinking about Gen AI and really boil down the research that we've done, the resources we've got for training and developing your teams, and this conversation. And actually, we used a really cool new Gen AI tool to monitor the meeting in real time and create real-time insights, which we'll be putting into a white paper and sharing back out of this meeting. But what was interesting to me, in addition to what you're saying about the whole Gen AI conversation, is that when we pivoted to talent today, suddenly we heard a couple companies. So we're actually using Chatham House rules here. So we'll tell you what the company said. We're not going to tell you who they were, but some pretty big organizations doing some wild stuff. But it's the age of bots. We heard a company literally talk about the future design of their accounting and finance function, and they had this org chart where they had figures that were humans Then they had stick figures that were gig workers. Then they had bots doing automated tasks inside a finance function and the corporation. And then they had AI as a job. So literally you see this org chart and there's like 30 figures of staff, and then there's 4 gig workers, and then there's 6 robots. And then, so literally that's starting to manifest it. They're actually actively building those kinds of finance functions right now. So that's kind of, that surprised me. I wasn't quite ready for that, although they're not here yet, but they're working on them actively right now. And then you can add to the outsourcing area where people are still outsourcing quite a few of those jobs. And then we had a whole idea of where talent fits in the pipeline. We talked about our apprenticeship program and where that fits. So yeah, it was very fascinating discussion as always.
Yeah. I think it was the talent piece was really interesting to hear where everybody is and what direction they're going in, because it was actually pretty unique company by company. There's definitely some overlap for sure, but in some of the more, call it, I guess, advanced companies, or at least one approach that they were taking is they were offshoring not only the entry level finance positions, but all the way up to something like a divisional CFO. And then augmenting with AI around that, which then leads into the next question of what do we need our onshore finance team to be able to deliver on? What skill sets and makeup do we need? Is it no longer just a team of finance professionals and accountants, or is there the integration of something like a chief AI role that rolls up under the CFO, or chief data scientist or data analytics role, which some of those are already out there. But it is showing just an interesting shift on where they're rolling into finance versus either being their own standalone department or otherwise there.
And let me just share a couple of the nuggets that came out of the group when we did a kind of key insights from the Gen AI discussion for you that we've got right here. So a couple of them, the basic message was just get started. Like you got to start playing with it. And then there was another concept where they said, don't be constrained by what we know today, and a great potential for AI. In fact, we use this framework that comes from Ali Miller, who's a famous LinkedIn AI person, and she calls it the dot dash star. 3 pillars. Dot are use cases. What are some immediate use cases we could start using ChatGPT or Copilot or Google, Gemini, whatever you're using. The dash is what can we be doing to upskill our team to start thinking more about AI in general. And the star is the big bang. Like, what are the big things? So they said, don't go waiting to try to plan the big bang. Get some use cases and start. We had some great examples from the group. Like, for instance, putting all your documents for proposals in one area where you could actually check all the terms and conditions from all these different contracts from a global organization and see what's going on. Those are just little examples that you could begin doing today. Now, keep in mind, you don't want to be putting that stuff in a public ChatGPT version or OpenAI. You want to make sure you're using Microsoft Copilot, which ring fences your data, or the professional versions of ChatGPT or some of the other ones that allow you to ring fence your data so it's not going up into the public domain.
Yeah, I think on the getting started on some of the actual use cases that we've heard where AI is being deployed and actively used within finance, a lot of it was around things like contracts. So there was one organization who does business in pretty much every country out there. They took 50 years of contracts, trained a model on it, and so whenever they have a new contract in like a local municipality of a country that maybe they haven't worked in a while, they can actually put into the model the parameters of what the new work is, and it will actually generate a statement of work following the terms, conditions, and the legal framework that was needed in the past, at least as a starting point, which was pretty interesting. And then also, I mean, aside from being able to generate that quickly, obviously it helps ensure from a finance and risk perspective, consistency right across the contracts that you have out there, which is pretty interesting. I think the other piece too is every month, right, everybody has to generate reports on the forecast, right, monthly business review. is looking at having AI at least roll forward a large portion of those reports, right? I think that that would be the star piece, would be doing the basic stuff. The dash piece, right? The next aspirational piece beyond that people are looking at is how can we use AI to automatically update those decks with the latest number, to then even being able to suggest commentary as part of that, right? So you can see how this all builds and goes into the next level beyond. But of course, it all starts with having the correct information to be able to have that flow through there.
And if you're going to do a major Gen AI inside your company, the group agreed with all the basic things you see in the research side. It says it is about the data. So you got to get your data right. Although all these productivity tools, like just using ChatGPT for research, for analysis, for consolidation, for insights, it's amazing for that. In fact, we did a use case with the group where we took about 10 of the most recent Gen AI and finance reports, created a custom GPT by loading them into ChatGPT, and then we had that give us basically 10-point kind of strategy for finance and Gen AI. And we'll be putting that in the white paper. But now we've got that tool that others can use to go and check their Gen AI strategy as they develop it against the latest research that we had as of this meeting. So it was pretty cool to do that. The other one we did that everyone loved is we're in these breakouts and we're kind of recording up on Post-it flip charts, and then we're putting that stuff in polls so we can capture the wisdom of the crowd. Well, we just take ChatGPT, take a picture, and then take that photo and say, please transcribe this. We're meeting at a future finance group, and literally ChatGPT will transcribe it. You can then copy it and put it in a report. You could say, summarize it, synthesize it. It does it. And that's actually how we took that vision. We took the work from 4 years ago and put it in ChatGPT to summarize and create a vision for 2030 to give us all those concepts quickly so that we could talk to the group about what we said then and is it still relevant today. And that was pretty wild.
Yeah, no, it's pretty interesting to see that. And that's where, again, the productivity piece, like you said, is something that can and should be started now, which could be part of the, the dot in the dot dash star example, right? I think, again, starting with a vision to anchor everything, have the easy wins and just general exposure to how AI is working and what it's capable of with the productivity piece while you're getting the house in order across the key systems that ultimately are going to drive the dash and star type transformations out there. So I think they need to happen in parallel to be truly effective.
Then the other thing that, because Gartner's been on this journey with us as well, they presented at the AICPA council meeting this past May. One of the things they said is one of the critical components, and this is true of every finance transformation, but especially with Gen AI too, is the mindset of your people. Do your people have like a future-ready mindset? Do they have a growth mindset? And is it basically positive? If not, as you start to implement this, people will fear, what's it mean to my job or my future? And so if you don't deal with that with some proactive vision, which we've worked on a couple with some of your clients, that really helps them see a better future. And you're going to upskill them and give them the tools to be able to use that technology. Suddenly that changes that whole nature, and your projects will go a lot smoother from that standpoint.
Yeah. And then I think that also kind of goes back into the question of, what point is transformation, right? It shows up on our trends. I mean, right, every year it's been number one or number two, probably number one every year. At what point does that become a standard skill set or assumption in finance that you are continuously transforming to whatever that end vision is, right? I think a lot of you are probably feeling it where you go through one initiative and the next thing you know, right on the heels of that, there's another one, and it starts to become a bit fatiguing trying to deal with that and manage it back to the mindset point, right? And so I think being able to frame that correctly and align that to where you're going in the future helps at least pull some of the pressure off of kind of slogging through the trench of every day we're going in and we're doing something new, right? There's a new time entry system. There's a new chart of accounts being rolled out, or we just acquired this, right? Whatever it is, there's something that's causing something to happen because it's so intertwined throughout the organization.
Yeah. Bottom line is the group felt the waves are coming faster and they're getting bigger. And so that gets us to one of my other favorite quotes is you can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. And in order to surf these waves as finance teams, you have to have a vision for where you're trying to go, which is exactly what our group did, looking out at 2030. Then you have to have the right mindset in your team. And so you have to actually proactively work with your team to get that mindset. Then it's about skill set, and the skills, which we talked about here as well, are basically success skills, strategic thinking, good storytelling and communication, collaboration and integration. Those types of skills are really what we need to layer on. We call it the T-shaped professional. That's what we need to layer on right now. And then finally you get down to tool set. And so if you combine those, then you can get your finance team oriented to ride these big waves of change and transformation into the future.
Yeah, and so actually on skill set, you want to give a little bit of background on the apprenticeship program that you're doing, because I think that ties directly into upskilling and preparing really that next future phase of professionals coming in to the workforce, but then also answering the question of upskilling, which again we see as a trend on here consistently. I think it just switched to 3 this time with retaining, but it's consistently in the top, and I think that helps to address really that throughout. So
we do have the first registered apprenticeship for finance business partners in the United States, first one in finance and accounting ever. We have one in the UK from our sister over at CIMA, but the point is this program's sanctioned by the US DOL. They looked at our curriculum. It literally goes from an apprentice that can start at high school or coming out, junior college, 4-year degree, up to a management level, to a strategic level. And that's giving people this opportunity. So even CPAs are going in at the strategic level to earn that CGMA finance business partner. And we'll see more about that. We're going to have a lot more about that in the future. We will be giving you access to our white paper once we get that produced from this meeting, and we'll send you lots more. Stay tuned into this. We better run right now because we got to catch a plane to get back home. But thank you all for being here with us. We appreciate it, and stay tuned for more from our LinkedIn Live and Future Ready Live program.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one. Happy Friday.